you go on Blackboard, week 5 of exam 1, and the link to go to the meeting, not the actual exam, but the link is the same. It's the same link as you've been using. I just put it here in case students look there. The outline is here. The exam will also be here on Friday with a password because you do have to be on WebEx to open it. So you'll go on WebEx first. But it will be in the same week 5 exam 1 section. And the outline is also here. Okay, the outline looks like this. So it's Friday during your regularly scheduled time, which is 9 o'clock. If you're going to miss the exam, I have to know beforehand, and we have to set up a date to take it. It's your same WebEx link, so you just come in just like you did today. You don't have to print the exam. The exam can be up on the screen, and then you just number your problems. Like I did for the outline, number 6, and write it all number 7. And then work it out on lined papers. That I only said lined. Go ahead. The review is the study guide. Not sure how many questions. Usually I have 13 questions on an exam. So I want you to have it numbered so I can find all the problems. If you skip a number, that's all right. Just put it somewhere, but make sure they're numbered so I know that that's what happened. So all your work. If it is a problem with actual like data, for instance, like number 8, you would not need to put this in a sentence. Whereas number 7 is talking about a story problem, you would have to put this in a sentence. Whereas, so if, well, this one you need to explain. So if 3 billion per hour is consistent to 4 million per minute, so you would have to put that in a sentence because you need to explain if it is the same. But ones that are just calculating, you do not need to. The number of feet in 10 miles in standard and scientific notation, you don't need to use a sentence. So if it's just having you calculate like 8 and 9, just put an answer. Whereas 10, 11, 12, those are all story problems. You need at least a sentence. Any questions so far? We are going to review all these problems. When you are done with your exam, you can either scan it and post it on the Blackboard, or you can take pictures of it, email it to yourself, and then post it onto Blackboard. But I want that done before you exit. That way I can see the timestamp. I don't want you to get off, get help, and then post it. So you have to post it and then sign off of WebEx. Any questions on the guidelines?
I had one quick question. I don't think this will be the case for me because you have 15 questions, but say if I'm done with the exam and it's like 2 minutes over just because I was emailing that to you, is that a problem?
It's not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
No. And your class starts at 9. My next class starts at 10. If you need a little more time to finish a problem, just keep working. I don't think for most people you will be done probably by a quarter till. But if you do need that extra time, just keep working. My other class will come in. I'll tell them to go on what the password is and to get their test. But just keep working. And then when you do finish, make sure you post it before you sign off. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions so far? Okay, so I will let you know, like it's a quarter till, it's 10 till, but that doesn't mean you have to get off. It's just if you have another class you need to go to, I want to let you know. Okay. So it's over chapters 1 through 4. Besides these problems, make sure you study, I think it says it here, but it's everything from 1 through 4. You can have the inflation calculator up, because right now, it was letting me flip yesterday, just real quick, and now it's not really. You can have the websites open, like the inflation calculator. I have it right up here, and over here I have the history of the minimum wage. You can have those open before you start your exam. That way, then you can just click on it and use it, and then go back to your exam. Probably will be on Windows, but you can go back and forth. Any questions on that? So you can have those open ahead of time. Any other questions so far? You can use the internet if there's things kind of like, forget what we used, the length of a football field. We had to look up the length and the height of the green monster. So there'll be things where you will have to look up, and that's fine. You can use the internet. And also with the internet, you use your inflation calculator, your history of minimum wage. There'll be a problem where you have to be able to convert from decimals, percents, and fractions. Now, I won't just give you the fraction 1/2 and tell you to convert it. There'll be a problem where you'll end up with a fraction, decimal, or percent, and you'll have to put it in all three forms. Are there any questions on that? I don't think of a problem. Should have made up one, but What percent of 200 is 80? Write the answer as a decimal, a percent, and a fraction. Okay. Of means multiply, is means equals. We're looking for the percent. I'll use P for percent. 200P equals 80. Solving for P, how do we get rid of the 200? Divide it. You should get 0.4. That would be the decimal. To make it a percent, we move the decimal to the right 2, or multiply by 100. To write it as a fraction, if you're going from the percent, it would be 40 over 100. If you're going from the decimal, this is 1 decimal place, so it'll be 4/10. Canceling a 0, I get 4/10. Dividing by 2, I get 2/5. You'll definitely have a problem, and then you'll have to write it as a decimal, percent, and a fraction. Any questions on that? Standard and scientific notation. Remember, probably would be a good one. Oh, there is one right here we have to do. So is there any questions on standard and scientific notation? We'll do it with problem number 8. To explain solving by rounding. Number 7 is a good one for that. So 4 will do at number 8, 7 and 5 will go together. Unless you have a question. For number 6, show if 3 billion per hour is consistent to 45 million per minute. Well, first thing, start with 1 and convert it to the other, because this is per hour, this is per minute. So if I convert this to minutes, I can compare them. Or convert this one to hours, then I can compare them. So they need to be the same rate before you can compare them. If I start with a 3 billion, nine zeros. We have 3 billion in an hour. You want to convert it to minutes. Hours to minutes, really only one conversion, because we know that 1 hour is 60 minutes. Which one do we put on the top? Hours or minutes?
Hours.
Yeah, because we want the hours to cancel. That way here they'll cancel. And then we have however much per minute. So we divide these. The 0 will cancel. And 30 divided by the 6 is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Circle the
So if we
30.
divide these, we'll get 50 million.
How come you circled the 30?
So that I knew I used that 0. I took 30 divided by 6 and got 5. So then I used this 0, and this one was canceled with this one. So I knew there was 7 zeros. But you could have used your calculator.
Okay.
Normally this part would be on a test part. I usually have 2 parts, one with the calculator, one without. Since we are online, I can't tell if somebody's using a calculator or not. It's hard to do. So you can use a calculator for all of it. We get 50 million per minute. They want to know if that is consistent to so you would compare those two and say if it's consistent. And that's a matter of opinion. I would probably say 45 million rounds to 50 million. If we rounded at the 4, this would round to 50. So it does round. So the answer is consistent if you're giving an estimate. No, they are not exact, but they're consistent with each other, and they're not, if you round it, they're not off. They're the exact same value. Now, that would be my opinion. Someone else might say that 5 million off is way too much. I mean, that's a lot if you're talking about money. So it's all in your opinion and making sure you're explaining yourself properly. So 1, I'd be looking at your calculation, and then 2, your explanation. But you could explain it either way. Any questions on that? Number 7. You drive 60 years of your life, and you drive 30 miles per day. How many miles will you drive in a lifetime? So in your lifetime, you drive 60 years, and you drive 30 miles per day. We want to find miles in lifetime. Well, I would probably start with 60 years for lifetime and then get miles in a lifetime. So if we have 60 years lifetime. We want to keep the lifetime. We just want to change years to miles. We know miles per day, so if we can change years to days, then we can go from days to miles. So you have to see what you have and what you need to convert to. I have years. I want miles. Well, they gave me miles in days, so if I can convert years to days, then I can go from days to miles. Now, if you can do it with just knowing I need to do multiply by this and divide by this, that is fine. Just show what you're doing. It's just when problems are a little more complicated and things we don't usually compare together, proportions are easier. So we want to go from years to days. We know that 365 days is a year. So I put days or years on top. We put days on top because we want years on the bottom so that they will cancel. And then I know there's 30 miles in a day. I need days to cancel, so I will put days in the bottom and miles on top. Now, this could definitely be a problem where I would say, explain how you would solve it by rounding. But if you wanted the exact value, just multiply all the way across. And then we have miles in a lifetime. Rounding, I would multiply. I would take the 60 and the 30 and multiply them. 6 times 3 is 18 with 2 zeros. So the first thing I would do is multiply these two. Then I would round this one to 2,000 and this one to 400. 2 times 4 is 8. 3, 4, 5, 0. So if you had to show by rounding, and you can round different ways, you could have kept this 60, made this 400, and multiplied them first. There's a lot of ways you could have done it.
I'm kind of confused. So where did the 400 come from?
I rounded. So the 1800, I rounded it to 2000, and the 365 to 400. So if in this problem I told you to solve it by rounding or explain your rounding, you would have to round.
Mm-hmm.
To find the exact value, let's see what it is.
It was 65,000. No, yeah, 657,000.
So if I asked you to do it by rounding and give the exact value, these are the two you'd have to compare. Another rounding though that you could have done. What that was? If you take the value, you could have kept this a 60 and made this 400. And then multiply these two. 6 times 4 is 24 and 1, 2, 3 zeros. Then you could multiply 24 and 3, but I know 25 and 3 because it's 3/4, which is 75. So I would probably round this to 25,000. I know 3/4 is 75 and count my zeros. So another possible answer is 750,000. So in this case, the way you would round can give different values, and that's fine. I just want to see your thought process on rounding. Any questions on that? So the one given problems, explain how to solve by rounding, that would be something like that. Any questions on it? Any questions? Number 8. This has a divided by, so I'm just going to put it underneath each other. So it said to take 9 times 10 to the 14th divided by 3 times 10 to the 6th, write it in standard and scientific notation. When you're dividing in scientific notation, you divide your numbers in front, and then when you divide with the same base, what do you do with the exponent? When
Do
you
you
divide
multiply?
with the same, yeah, subtract. When you divide with the same base, you subtract your exponents. Just like when we cancel zeros, it's the same thing. So 9 divided by 3 is 3. 10 times 10, 14 minus 6. So it would be 3 times 10 to the 8th. This would be scientific notation. The standard form, because this 8 is positive, it will make this bigger by moving the decimal place 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this would be standard form. Any questions on that? I tried this one. 2.1 times 10 to the fourth times 3 times 10 to the negative 6. Write it in scientific notation and standard. When you're multiplying, you add your exponent. 2.1 times 3 is 6.3. And then adding the exponents, 4 plus a negative 6 is 6.3 times 10 to the negative 2. A negative makes your decimal smaller, or your number smaller, so we move this way too. So this would be our scientific notation, and this is standard. Is there any questions on that? Number 9. The number of feet in 10 miles. Answer in standard and scientific notation. Okay, with 10 miles. We know there's how many feet in a mile? Anyone? 5,280. And we want miles on the bottom because we want it to cancel with miles on the top. 1 mile is 5,280 feet. And it is one that you should have memorized. Multiplying, we're multiplying it by a 1, so it stays the same. We just add this 0. We should have 52,800 feet. And that would be standard form. You write it in scientific notation. You first decide where to put the decimal place. The number needs to be between 1 and 10, so it's going to be 5.2. It's the only spot where we'll have a number between 1 and 10. We put it here. 0.5 is not between 1 and 10. 52 is too large. The only spot. And then times 10 and see how many decimal places you move. I was here. I moved 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places. Then you decide if it's positive or negative. This is going to stay positive because 5.2 needs to get bigger. If this needed to get smaller, it would be negative. Any questions on that? A lot of these seem pretty simple because they're more of the basic ones. Make sure you're looking at your homework. Although some of these are from the homework on the second page. Number 10. Twelve cans of soda in a case. If you buy 5 cases, how many cans do you have? Okay. There's two parts to this question. We'll first work with the first one. So if we have 12 cans in a case and we buy 5 cases, how many cans do we have? Now you do multiply, but if you were not sure, you can use proportions. We want the number of cans. We know 12 cans is 1 case. And we have 5 cases. Cases cancel. We'd be left with cans. So 12 times 5, 60 cans. There are 60 cans in 5 cases. And whenever it's a story problem, you want to write it in a sentence. So you would put, there are 60 cans in 5 cases, or 5 cases has 60 cans. If the 5 cases cost $18, what's the price per can? No. 5 cases is 18. So price per can means price on top. $18 for 5 cases. Now there's 2 ways you can do it. You can convert to cans using 5 cases and 60 cans, or you can replace this with 60 cans because you know they're equal. If we keep with the idea of the proportions, 5 cases is 60 cans. Cases cancel. The 5s cancel. We have 18 divided by 60. And then 0.3, that's 30 cents because this was in dollars. The price is 30 cents per can. So we'd have 2 sentences. One that says how many cans in a case, in 5 cases, and 30 cents per can. Any questions on that? There'll definitely be one converting money. This was one on the homework. In the wizarding world, $7 is equivalent to 1 galleon. Joe found a game there for 10 galleons. What does it cost in dollars? We have 10 galleons. We need to convert it to dollars. We know that $7 is a galleon. If you're unsure, just use your proportions. 1 galleon is $7. And then my galleons are canceled and I'm left with dollars. So a game for 10 gallons. In the Wizarding World. Would cost $70. So you should write a complete sentence as if we didn't know the question, so all the idea behind it is in the sentence. Any questions on that one? Any questions? Number 12. A car travels at 60 miles per hour and needs to drive 300 miles. How long will it take to get there? When we're talking about distance and rate, that's a formula. It's a formula you need to know. Rate times time equals distance. And if you want a formula sheet, that's fine. Can't think of any other things besides maybe explain scientific notation. Of means multiply, is means equals when set in a proportion. But if you want to have a little thing with notes, it's fine. Which means if it's open notes, it's not going to be as simple and basic questions. It'll be a little harder. Okay, so when you're talking about traveling and distance, it's rate times distance equals rate times time equals distance. Rate is the one that has per hour, per minute, some type of unit, and this one is 60 miles per hour. So that's our rate. If it goes 300 miles, how long will it take? That means we're looking for t, and the distance was 300 miles. Our units are the same, 300 miles, miles per hour. I just plugged into the formula. Any questions on that part? We're getting t by itself. Because this is multiplied, do the opposite, divide. 0 cancels, 30 divided by 6 is 5, and it was in hours. It will take 5 hours for the car to travel 300 miles in, if it's going 60 miles per hour. Any questions on that one? %, of Calc 2, or 144 students, failed last semester. And that is the Calc 2 class, it is about 60% failure rate. One is probably the hardest math class. I know it's the hardest one I ever took. But Calc 1 is easy, so then you get surprised when you take Calc 2. But there's a 60% failure rate. 60% of Calc 2 students, or 144 students, failed last semester. How many students took Calc? So there's a couple ways you could set it up. If 60% of the students failed, and we're looking for the total students, it would be 60% of the number of students is 144, because 60% is 144. So you have to be careful what they're giving you. They didn't give us the total students, they gave us 60% of the total. We're looking for how many students took it. So 60% of the number that took health is 144. Any questions on setting it up? This is multiplied, so you divide to get rid of it. And we divide. $240. One hundred and 40 students took health 2, and 60% or 144 students failed. Any questions on that? We will start on number 14 next class, but we'll go over these and we'll go over, a lot of this is the first 2 chapters. 3 and 4 is but 4 is the inflation calculator and the minimum wage. For the sentence, no, I probably wouldn't take off, but you should be including everything in your sentence so that you have all the facts without having to look at the question. But as long as it's a complete sentence and it has the answer in it, I would not take off. Unless it says explain, then you'd need all that in there. But just for an answer like this, you could put last semester 240 students took healthcare. It only asks for total students. Okay. Is there any other questions?